All right, let's dive into a cult classic. One that's way more than just a slasher flick. We're talking Maniac Cop from 1988. You've got a seemingly unstoppable killer stalking New York City. But here's the twist. The killer is a former cop, back from the dead.
What's so fascinating is how Maniac Cop takes that slasher formula and injects it with this gritty police procedural element. Creates this really unsettling atmosphere.
The line between law and chaos has totally blurred.
Exactly.
Okay, so the story centers on Matt Cordell, once a respected cop, who gets betrayed by his own department, framed, sent to prison, brutally attacked, and left for dead. You'd think that would be the end. But
Right.
for Cordell, death is just the beginning.
And his return, it isn't just about personal revenge. Cordell's targets, at least initially, are those who directly wronged him, the people who represent the broken system, the system that chewed him up and spit him out. But his rampage spills over, terrorizing the city, creating this pervasive sense of fear and distrust.
So it's not just about jump scares then.
Right.
It's about the fear of authority itself, the people we rely on to protect us. What happens when they become the very thing we fear most?
Exactly. And the film really hammers that home by making Cordell a cop. It's not some masked figure. He's wearing the uniform, carrying a badge. You see that in the opening scene, where he targets the police commissioner, the one who orchestrated his downfall. It's a chilling reminder of how power can corrupt, even those at the very top.
And that sense of paranoia just permeates the whole film. It's like, even in the safety of your own home, you're looking over your shoulder, wondering, who can I trust? And then you've got this other layer of tension with Detective Frank McRae trying to unravel the mystery while another cop, Jack Forrest, gets framed for the murders.
Talk about a tangled web.
Yeah.
This raises the question, is Cordell simply a monster driven by revenge? Or was he always destined to become this figure?
But here's the thing, right? The film doesn't just paint Cordell as this one-dimensional villain. We see these flashes of the man he used to be.
Yeah.
You know, a dedicated cop who believed in the system.
It makes his downfall all the more tragic. And it raises these questions about what could have been.
There's a scene where they show a flashback to Cordell receiving a commendation for his service. He's got this proud look on his face. It's such a stark contrast to the vengeful figure he becomes.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder, was he always predisposed to violence? Or did the system itself create the monster?
His physical scars, a result of that brutal prison attack, almost mirror his psychological transformation.
Yeah.
They become this visual representation of his loss of humanity, blurring the lines between man and monster.
It's like those scars. They become a symbol of everything that was taken from him. His career, his reputation, his faith in the system.
It's like his near-death experience pushed him into this almost supernatural realm. He's not just a killer. He's this unstoppable force of vengeance lurking in the shadows, ready to strike. And director William Lustig, he really amplifies this with his cinematic style. The gritty urban aesthetic, the use of shadows and lighting, the way he frames Cordell in these tight close-ups. It creates this incredible tension and suspense. Think about that scene where Cordell confronts those thugs in the alleyway. Lustig uses these harsh shadows to obscure Cordell's face, highlighting his imposing figure. Makes him seem even more menacing.
You can practically feel Cordell lurking in the darkness, ready to strike. And let's not forget those performances. Robert Zedar as Cordell is absolutely chilling. His imposing physique and those stoic movements, they truly embody the menace of the maniac cop.
Zedar's performance, it really sells the idea that Cordell is more than just a man. He's a force of nature, an embodiment of rage and vengeance.
And then you've got Bruce Campbell, bringing his unique charm to the role of Jack Forrest, trying to clear his name and stop Cordell.
Campbell's presence, it adds a bit of levity to the film. But even his character, he isn't immune to the suspicion and paranoia that permeates the story.
And of course, Tom Atkins delivers a strong performance as Detective McRae, the one determined to get to the bottom of it all. So we've got this incredibly layered story, with themes of justice, corruption, revenge, and the very nature of humanity, all wrapped up in this gritty, suspenseful package. No wonder Maniac Cop achieved cult classic status.
And it didn't stop there. Maniac Cop spawned 2 sequels, further cementing Cordell's status as a horror icon. The sequels, they delve deeper into his backstory, adding layers to his character and motivations.
Yeah, we get those glimpses of his past in the first film, but the sequels really flesh out his origins. We learn more about his time as a cop, the events that led to his betrayal, and the brutality he faced in prison.
It's interesting to see how the sequels grapple with the idea of Cordell's humanity. Is he a tragic figure? A victim of circumstance? Or is he truly a monster, beyond redemption.
But even beyond the sequels, what's fascinating is how Maniac Cop, even decades later, continues to influence filmmakers in both the horror and crime genres.
Absolutely, that blend of slasher tropes. With the police procedural framework, it was groundbreaking at the time, and it continues to inspire similar genre mashups today. You see it in films like the Purge franchise, where the lines between law enforcement and vigilante justice become blurred.
And you know what else is fascinating? How the film's themes still resonate with audiences in a modern context, like distrust in authority figures, the desire for revenge against a broken system. Those ideas are arguably even more relevant today than they were back in 1988.
It's almost like film was ahead of its time. It tapped into these societal anxieties about power, corruption, and the potential for violence that have only become more prominent in recent years. Think about the current climate of social unrest, the debates about police brutality, and systemic injustice. Maniac Cop taps into those very real fears and anxieties.
Speaking of modern relevance, there have been rumors of a Maniac Cop reboot swirling around Hollywood. That alone speaks volumes about the film's enduring legacy.
A reboot would definitely be interesting. It would be fascinating to see how they would update the story and themes for a contemporary audience, while still staying true to the spirit of the original. Would they lean more into the social commentary aspects? Would they explore Cordell's backstory in even greater depth?
It would be interesting to see how they handle the character of Cordell himself. Would he be a more sympathetic figure? Or would they lean into his monstrous side?
I think there's a lot of potential there to explore the complexities of his character. He's a villain, yes, but he's also a product of a system that failed him. There's a lot of room for nuance there.
Okay, so we've covered the plot, the themes, the cinematic style, the performances, the sequels, the lasting impact. I think it's safe to say we've thoroughly deep dived into Maniac Cop, wouldn't you say?
Indeed we have. And I think the key takeaway here is that Maniac Cop is so much more than just a slasher film. It's a thought-provoking exploration of complex themes like justice, corruption, and the duality of human nature.
It's a film that makes you question your assumptions about the world, about authority, about the very nature of good and evil, and it does all of this while delivering some genuinely terrifying and suspenseful moments.
It really gets under your skin.
Yeah.
And stays with you long after the credits roll.
Exactly. Now, for our listeners who may not have seen Maniac Cop, I have to ask, what stands out to you most about what you've learned today? What intrigues you?
Is it the exploration of corruption within law enforcement, the unsettling fear of an authority figure turned killer, or maybe it's the tragic transformation of Matt Cordell himself from a respected cop to a vengeful, monstrous figure?
We've covered a lot of ground today, and I think it's those nuances, those layers of meaning that make Maniac Cop such a compelling film to revisit. And revisit you should, because here's the thing I keep coming back to. If Cordell had received justice, for the wrongs committed against him, could he have been saved from becoming the Maniac Cop? Or was this descent into darkness, was it inevitable?
It's a question that really sticks with you. Was he a product of his circumstances? Or was there just this darkness within him all along, just waiting for the right moment to come out? The film gives us those glimpses of his past, of the man he was before his downfall. But it also shows us the brutality he was capable of, even as a cop.
Like that scene where he confronts those thugs in the alleyway. Even before his transformation, there's a certain intensity there, a ruthlessness to his actions that hints at something darker, lurking beneath the surface.
Exactly. It makes you wonder if the system simply provided a catalyst, an outlet for the darkness to fully manifest. The betrayal, the brutality he endured, it might have pushed him over the edge, but was he always headed down that path?
It's almost like a nature versus nurture debate, but with this terrifying, horror-infused twist.
Precisely. And I think that's part of what makes Maniac Cop so fascinating. It doesn't give you easy answers. It forces you to confront these uncomfortable questions about human nature, justice, and the potential for violence, that potential that lurks beneath the surface of even the most seemingly ordinary individuals.
It's a film that stays with you, makes you think, makes you question. So to our listeners, we encourage you to check out Maniac Cop and draw your own conclusions. See how the film's themes resonate with you, and consider that final caution. Could Matt Cordell have been saved? Or was his transformation into the Maniac Cop an unavoidable tragedy?
And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. So feel free to share your insights, your interpretations, and maybe even your own theories about Matt Cordell's journey. Until next time, keep those minds sharp and happy viewing.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Maniac Cop. See you next time.